Hi, folks. This is Claire Church and Pete Lewis with Muse Performance Space, and we're continuing our Muse Talks today with our friend Kim Bird, a super active bass player who is not as active as she used to be after the pandemic. And as we've mentioned, there are musicians in our area that went to zero income, no income at all as a result of this, especially the ones who do a lot of gigs. And the definition of people who do a lot of gigs are bass players. Um, uh, Definitely, the most important member of the band for my money. Anyway, so hi, Kim.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty well.
We're super busy, but a different kind of busy than we used to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, and I think I was telling Pete, no, this was last night, I was saying, I had all this stuff I was really worried about, and how am I going to get to the end of the school year? We have so much going on at the Muse, and I have these gigs that I'm kind of nervous about. I'm preparing for a lot of gigs, and I don't really see how I'm going to make it to the end. That was on March 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And then March 13th, it all just went boom. And
Yeah,
I,
that was the weekend for me too. I think that was the weekend for everyone where we were kind of like, oh, well, this is something's happening, and then it was just like every day was like 10 weeks had happened in between the day, and I remember I had two gigs, the Saturday and Sunday that weekend. That would have been the 14th and the 15th. And that gig on the 15th, that was a wedding gig. I was doing a jazz quartet up at the Stanley Hotel up in Estes Park, and they had a big group that it was going to be a big wedding that they like totally pared down. So they made it from like 70 guests to like 25 guests or something. And even then, like I was on the gig and everybody was kind of like, this feels a little weird. Like I don't really think we're supposed to be here right
yeah.
now. And that was the last live music that I did. So that was what, like 6 weeks ago,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit.
we played at Vine Street with Mark Diamond the 12th, and it was the same. Like there were a lot of people there. It
There
was
were.
kind of crowded, and I didn't feel so great about that. I thought, hmm, I'm not sure everybody should be here.
Yeah.
But anyway, for me, it's been a blessing in a way because although I'm teaching remotely, which is hard and weird, um, I'm not running around so much. It's been kind of good for me in some ways. Not that I would wish any of it on anyone else, but anyway, we would love to hear you play a little bit. We've been having people play a little bit at the beginning and the end of this if you're up for it.
Yeah, I can play. I don't have anything planned, so I'll just see what happens, see what the instrument tells me to do right now.
I love that.
All right, I'll play something.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Yay. Yeah. You have a beautiful sound.
Oh, thank you.
The microphone's not doing it justice, of course.
Yeah, and this is the hardest instrument too. I find I'm teaching guitar and bass lessons right now, and with the guitar students, it's great. It's like I can hear everything; it's perfect. And with the bass, it like comes in and out, and it's just like this is a really hard time capturing the frequencies. I think of the instrument for sure.
I agree. We've had the same experience.
Kim, can you tell us and the listeners where you grew up and how you got started as a musician, and like anybody who inspired you, or
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my story is a little bit different, I think, from the typical musician. I actually didn't start studying music. I didn't start playing bass until my early 20s. And so I played guitar, and before that, I'm from the Berkshires, Massachusetts. And I grew up in that area, and then I moved to New Hampshire to go to college, and I was playing guitar in a band there and doing a little bit of singing, but I shouldn't really be singing, but I was doing that. From there, some of the people that I was playing with there they were involved in the music program at the University of Southern Maine, and they were kind of encouraging me to go and study music seriously there. And so they were like, and I had kind of expressed interest in the bass, and they're like, well, everybody needs bass. So if you're going to study something seriously, like maybe consider the bass. And so that's what I did, and I kind of got some really quick lessons from one of my bass buddies, and I auditioned and I got in. And then like 10 years later, I was finishing up my master's degree at the Lamont School of Music at DU. So I feel like I had this like really kind of fast tracked development, and I think part of that came from me just coming into the instrument into jazz a little bit later, so I had more of a kind of a mature mindset, more of a focus to be able to just kind of go through that, because it was a very deliberate decision. It wasn't like, oh, music, no, I don't know, it was just like, oh, music, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do that. So I finished up at DU in 2013, and I've just been hanging around the Denver area since. Keeping pretty busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you play classical bass as well?
I do. Yeah, I'm not doing as much classical bass now as I would like, but my undergrad degree was, everybody that was in the jazz program at USM also had to do classical. So I had to give like a classical recital as well as a jazz recital. And I played in the orchestra there, and that was really fun. And then when I was at DU, I was working on my master's degree in jazz, but I also was taking classical lessons as well, and playing in the orchestra there too. So, and that's something that I really miss, is being able to, like, orchestral playing, because there's nothing. I mean, you can play in a combo, you can play in a big band, but when you're on stage with like literally 80 other people, like,
yeah,
that's a really cool feeling.
Do you feel like studying classical music helps jazz and vice versa?
I think so, yeah, because I think because it's all music, and it kind of informs what you're doing in a different way. For me, the classical music was really good because I was working more on technique with my classical teachers. So like intonation and how to move efficiently around the instrument, I think is something that really helped with my jazz playing. And also I think by studying the jazz, that kind of gave me an improvisation, gave me sort of it made my ears a little bit bigger, I think, to kind of see how my role, how my instrument fits in with everything else, and to not just be playing along and being like, okay, so my notes on the page, like, that's all I have to be concerned with. It's like, well, there's so much more than just that note on the page. And I think jazz musicians have a greater understanding of that. I'm not saying it's exclusive, but I think it's definitely kind of having that sort of roundness to the music as a whole is a really big positive to being comfortable improvising and doing.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, you have to listen to everything at once in a really deep way.
Yeah.
And if you start getting too focused on yourself, it's not successful.
Yeah, and that also, and I mean, yeah, that really helps too with like, maybe you just like in a chamber group or something, or like playing in a quartet. Maybe you get off for a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay. I feel like it's easier to kind of get back on, or also just dynamic wise, just kind of hear how things are working together.
Yeah.
Are there some specific jazz bass players that you gravitate to listening to? Anybody who's like, oh, I love that, his sound, her sound?
Yeah, I really love Dave Holland. I think Dave Holland is one of my favorites. I really like his sound, and I just really like his playing style in general. Like it's not flashy. He can be flashy if he wants to be, but it's usually just like, I don't know, pretty solid. I really like Charlie Hayden. The Charlie Hayden, Hank Jones recordings. Those guys did a couple of albums of like old spirituals.
Yeah.
I gotta check that out.
Man.
Just some of the best music. So those are probably two of my favorites, and then of course Ray Brown. Every bass player loves Ray Brown. And when I was at DU, I was studying with Ken Walker, and the thing that he had me do, like the first two quarters at DU, he had me transcribe We Get Requests, Ray Brown, Oscar Peterson, that he had me transcribe like every note that Ray Brown played on the album.
Oh.
Yeah, he was so excited. It was like our first lesson. He's like, so this. I'm like, okay. He's like, no, you're gonna play the whole thing. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, great. Let's do that. And so that was really fun, getting to just really sit in his style for a while.
Yeah.
That was a super cool feeling.
So, we as saxophone players and ex-saxophone players use transcriptions to kind of get inside somebody's sound, time, approach. It's not just the notes, but it's like where they place the time. And I'm sure you got a lot out of doing that with Ray Brown's solo too.
Yeah, and actually one of the things that I'm really impressed with myself and really disappointed in myself is that I never wrote any of it down.
I think that's okay.
I think it's great. It's just kind of sad that I don't have it now. Like that would be like a good thing, I could like give to students, or I could like go back and refresh. So I don't have like a record of all of that work, but at the same time, just like spending the hours to like transcribe and memorize everything, I think got in at like a deeper level.
I think we've done it both ways. I think I've done the ones like for Liebman where I had to just do them by ear, but we had a dresser about 3.5 feet tall, 4-drawer dresser, and it was full of our transcriptions that we had both done. And I'm sure they're here somewhere. I hope they're still here somewhere.
You'll find them.
A few times. Yeah. And so you play a lot of cover band type music, and you play a lot of funk and rock and all that stuff, but also a lot of jazz. We played a lot of jazz together.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the cool things, I think, with the bass is that it is so versatile, and you can kind of like slip into so many genres. And so yeah, I consider myself primarily a jazz player, but I haven't been playing as much jazz recently. I've been doing a lot more on the electric. I do a lot of weddings and stuff, and things like that, and it's just really fun. And I think like with all of that, the cover band music and stuff, you can get burnt out on it really quickly if you're not thinking about it the right way. And so my mentality with that has always been, okay, so we're going to learn these songs. Now, how can we like make these songs better? Or how can we play these songs and have them sound awesome and still be exciting, and not just have it be like a recording. And I feel like I've been really fortunate to be working a lot with people who kind of have that same mentality. So, when I tell people that I do like a ton of weddings, they're like, oh, you must get like, oh, that must be boring, like, oh, I hate it. I'm like, no, you don't know what our weddings are like. They're really fun, It's like, I'm playing with Drew Heller. I'm playing with Chris Beck. Like, we're like making music out of just this like stuff that people have heard, 50, 100 times. And that's what makes it fresh and exciting for all of us.
And it's fun. It's just fun to groove with bass and drums. It's just fun when that connection is really happening. It's
Mm-hmm.
just fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and honestly, like doing some of that reception stuff, like I feel more appreciated sometimes
Yeah.
than doing like a jazz gig. Like I love jazz gigs and I'll always play them, but you feel, I don't know, I just feel more appreciated sometimes when you're like playing for people and they're dancing.
I agree. It's like, especially the people getting married, it's like this is like a huge deal for them. Something they're gonna remember the rest of their lives. And if you bring it, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, man, the band was just great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It is a big deal. It's not something you just blow off like it's just another wedding gig. It's super
Exactly.
important to those people.
Yeah. And
So
I think as long as I can keep that mentality and that happiness about it, I'll keep doing them because I know that it's not a sustainable thing. And I know eventually I'll be like, okay, I can't start getting it. But once I get to that point, well, it's right now I've probably got like a year to wait until all that starts happening again. So
oh
hopefully
yeah,
I'll
yeah. And then until you're done with it. I got one more year doing wedding gigs, but yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
It's
Um,
crazy.
do you have anything future projects, CDs, things you're working on that you're excited about getting going again, or are you mostly just kind of freelancing?
Yeah, I don't have anything of my own music that I am currently working on. Um, but I'm trying to use this time, this kind of downtime, to sort of see, what kinds of things I can create, and left when left to my own devices, like what could I do? Because I just got an interface. Like I've always considered myself to be like a very organic player, just very in the moment, love playing live, and that's just not something that can really happen at the moment. So I got some recording stuff, and I'm kind of like figuring out how to like layer things together. I just got a keyboard, a digital piano, which is really nice. I haven't had one of those in a long time. So trying to figure out. I've always enjoyed being able to just kind of plunk and play chords and just hear more than one note at a time, as opposed to trying to compose with this. So I don't really have anything specific that I'm working on, but just the idea of being able to just kind of have like a little workshop of my own
Yeah.
is really exciting. And my friend Aaron Summerfield, who's a fantastic guitarist, I consider him to be like a prolific writer, prolific songwriter. We're in a quartet together, and like every gig that we have, there's always like 10 new charts.
Wow.
But he has sent some stuff over to me to kind of do some bass recording on as well. So that's something that I'll be looking at doing down the road.
What type of group is that you guys have?
So it's me and Aaron, and then Daryl Gott on saxophone, and Kevin Matthews on drums, and it's a really cool group. We're called CP Trio. We used to be a trio, now we're a quartet, but we've kept it as CP Trio. And it's pretty much all original music with some covers. We'll do covers of like James Bond themes, or like 80s rock ballads or things like that. And uh, it's fun because it almost feels kind of like jazz folk music,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very strong with melodies, but a lot of it, so it kind of has this sort of like kind of like folk music appeal, but then there'll be sections that are like completely free and completely improvised. So it's kind of just wandering around between those two worlds in a really interesting way.
That sounds great. Sounds super fun.
Yeah, it's super fun, and with those guys too, like playing with if Aaron and Daryl and Kevin, it's like you're just like driving in a Lamborghini. Like it's completely effortless. It's like everybody is just listening, and we know each other so well that it's just like, oh, someone went there, and like everybody's like, okay, we're going there too. Or it's like, oh, he went there. I hear him going there. I'm gonna keep going here, and we're gonna and it's just a really really fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take him upstairs.
It's the Art Landy approach. Like you can you can add to what they're doing, you can complement it, or you can go completely against it. That's art's whole thing about free music. Like, what's your role? What are you doing in that world?
Yeah, and I think for me, Art was like, he was kind of huge in giving me the confidence to be able to do that. Because I've been playing in a trio with him and Amanda Williams for a little bit too, and we'll get together, and we'll rehearse and stuff. But I feel like every time we get together, I'm getting like a free lesson with Art.
Yeah,
yeah. And he'll be like, okay, so you don't have to do this, you don't have to think like that or do that, and it's just like there's always like something new to be like, oh, you're right, yeah, oh, I don't, oh, okay.
yeah,
That's been really fun too.
yeah, yeah. I miss playing with Art.
Yeah. Yep.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you have any words of encouragement or anything that you've been thinking about during this time, or do you think like this has made an impact permanently how things are going to be after this comes out? Have you thought about that?
I have, yeah, and I think it's weird because I know that just speaking from the musician perspective, I know that the gigs are going to come back, and I know that eventually we're going to be okay. But I think what it's really done is it's been very eye-opening to see how how much you're reliant on what's going on around you. I feel like as a freelancer, we kind of have this false sense of independence, because you're always hustling, you're always like, you're making your own career. It's like, well, I don't have an employer, like, so I don't need to worry about that issue, or I don't need to worry about that because I am my own employer and I'm making sure that my business is running okay. And so you kind of get comfortable thinking that because you are not connected to all these things, it's fine. But then something like this happens and you realize, oh, whoa, like I'm way more connected than I realized. And so I think that's definitely been an impact for me, is like, okay, I can do music, but it is entirely dependent on the economy. It's entirely dependent on this, this industry being open, that industry being open. And so trying to figure out how you can protect yourself financially, while not being dependent on all of that stuff going on. So that's been the big thing for me, is I feel, and that's something that I've been thinking about for a little bit. And this is just kind of like that, the fast track of it. Like, okay, you really need to be thinking about your life after music now, because it might not be a thing that you're going to be able to do the way that you want to for a really long time. So that's been kind of odd. But I also think it's kind of cool. Like, I'm super into history, so I always try to think of things with the historical perspective, and thinking about, 10, 15 years from now, like looking back on this time period, because it's going to be fine. Like we're going to be fine. Like it's all going to correct itself. But just thinking about living through something like this, which is like, this is like a once in a century type thing. Like, is this like, it's horrible and people are dying and everybody's stressed and we're depressed, but it's like fascinating. It's like a really kind of like interesting, cool thing to kind of be going through. And so I'm just really curious to see, how it's all going to play out and how we're going to be able to look back and think about, it's one of those things like life before the pandemic and life afterwards.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that, that marker in there. So
for sure.
And I hope, that we learn, like, we should have learned from the Spanish flu back in the early 1900s. And now, like, this is going to happen again, maybe even sooner. Like, do we set ourselves up medically, economically, like have all these things in place? So when it hits, it's like, boom, we got a plan. Because it seems like we got caught off guard.
We probably won't, though.
Yeah, not to get political about it, because I think we could turn political really quickly. But I think having those things in place, having, a government that's thinking more proactively about those things is going to make a huge difference. And I do think that that's something that we will have, because it's just, this can't, what's happening right now cannot be this is just not, there's just no way that it can be like this.
Yeah.
This is just not, because it's not working.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Could we get you to play a little more before we?
Sure. Alrighty.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thank you so
Thanks,
much
Kim.
for taking time with us. And folks, just remember that you can go to Venmo and give a little money to Kim or to any of the musicians you've heard, and they very much appreciate any help you can give them, because as we've said, their income is either greatly reduced or eliminated during this time. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's good to see you and chat with you.
You too.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye-bye.